Hi, I'm Sid Dobrin. In this video, I'll be talking about the essay assignment that provides students with a series of topics from which to select and then evaluate. I should start off by saying that I've tried to include a range of kinds of subjects for students to evaluate. I've divided them into two groups, general subjects and local campus subjects. Of course, you should feel free to add, delete, or modify any of these subjects to fit your curricular or pedagogical needs, or even just your students' interests. I designed this assignment to meet the needs of curricula that require traditional academic essays. When I teach the assignment, I try to focus on talking about how students will develop criteria for their evaluations that might be considered valuable within an academic setting. That is, the 12 topics I provide are of less importance than how students develop the critical criteria through which to conduct their evaluations. I spend a lot of time encouraging students to begin their evaluations by asking lots of questions about the topic and the situation in order to better understand the topic and its position in the situation before developing the evaluative criteria. This, I find, helps students focus their criteria development toward audience and situational needs. I also emphasize that as they define their criteria based on audience and situational needs, they must provide clear definitions as to what they mean by their specific criteria. As they work to define their criteria, I also encourage them to think about the kinds of information they'll need to gather in order to accurately and ethically evaluate their topic based on those criteria. That is, I use the assignment to also talk about the range of kinds of research that they might conduct in an academic setting that could provide information needed to accurately evaluate their topic, including both primary and secondary research. As students begin to gather the information, or even the tools they might need for future